Hey, welcome to the show. You are listening to the Roosic podcast. We are a roots music podcast based out of Nashville, Tennessee, where we talk to the local music scene and beyond.
Today we have Uzzell. He is a songwriter, Navy veteran, and guy trying to be a good guy.
Check it out. You're not just a tall dude; you're a big dude.
Yeah.
So I think about it all the time. Like I am right down the fucking middle.
The
you know
world's
what I mean?
built for you.
Exactly. The world is like built for me.
Airplane seats, Ubers,
everything. But I always wonder, like, what are the things that I don't think about as an average sized person that just that kill you every day?
Hotel shower heads. I have to take a deep squat to get my hair wet. Yeah.
Even our shower head is like,
your standard shower head is good for like a 5'10" person.
Yeah.
But in hotels, depending on how if they've like remodeled or not, like they might have changed the spout, but not like the basin you sit or stand in. Sometimes it's like, I'm talking like clavicle level for the shower head. And like, you got to do what you got to do. And so that blows hard. And anytime I have to ride with anybody else anywhere, Ubers are the worst. I will get if I'm out somewhere and I didn't have the wherewithal to have not drank, I just chalk it up to a loss. And
so
I'll order
it's
an
like
expensive
XL,
one.
like the default then. That's like default.
If I got to do it, it's going to be something like someone's coming up in like a Yukon XL or something. Like I don't fit in a Ford Focus or any of that. Damn. It's not even possible.
See, as a shorter guy, I feel like there's a lot of silver linings there that I don't think
Certainly.
about.
I really think the ideal, like if you're a 5'9" guy, like the world or girl, the world's your oyster for everything. Yeah. You're always just right. Think about a bathtub. I've never, as an adult, I've been the same size since I was 12. I've never.
That's terrifying. I'm sorry.
That's crazy.
Just take a pause. That is terrifying.
I can't even. Yeah, that's wild.
I've never fit in a standard bathtub once in my life. So it's not even possible. Like the water would be out of it if I tried to get in.
As a grown man, though,
So did you just like destroy people in sports in high school and shit, or what?
So I went to a really small private school that didn't have contact sports.
Oh.
I did play middle school football at public school before I switched over, and that was like my mom had to keep my birth certificate and stuff because it was like she literally had she had like a completely like sealed copy of it that was just ready in her purse.
Yeah,
and
I swear he's 12.
No, literally, it was like the scene from Benchwarmers or whatever when he's like, "I am 12."
That's good.
And because I remember like I hit 6 foot just before my 10th birthday.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But I wasn't like skinny 6 foot. I was like 6 foot 200 as like a almost 10-year-old.
Damn.
And then it just got worse from there. And
is the rest of your family big people too?
So my dad's like 6'5", 6'6".
Okay.
My brother's like 6'7". I'm 6'8". And then my great grandpa was 7'1", and it's just a spattering of different heights in between.
That is some Viking blood.
Yeah, dude. I got some girl cousins that are 6'5".
Wild.
Damn.
Oh my God.
And it was all normal to me. Like in my household, I was an inch or two taller than everybody around me. So it was just kind of, we all seemed the same. And then my mom's 5'9", which is tall for a girl. But I'd be like, 8 or 9 years old going over to my friends' houses to spend the night and stuff. And I'd show up and my mom would like drop me off and I'd knock on the door and their parents would open the door and I'd be taller than their parents. And they're like, "Are you selling gutters? Like, what do you want?" And I was like, "I'm 8. I'm here to hang out with Jake."
I love that. Oh yeah, there's a lot there to unpack that I'm sure I'm not even thinking about. Because I feel like it's the everyday shit that I wouldn't even that wouldn't even enter into my mind. Yeah, bathtubs included.
It's not even just like appliance things. It's like, for instance, talking about appliance things, countertop heights, like doing the dishes, or like doing like preparing food. Yeah. My back is sore by the time I get done doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So depending on it, like I like to sometimes like bring a chair in whenever I'm doing something. Like I'll sit in a chair while I'm like prepping food and stuff.
That's smart. Yeah. Well, my kids are never going to have this problem.
My solution to it is just hopefully get, well off enough that I can build my house to fit me, and then everyone else has to be inconvenienced.
There you go. Yeah, and honestly, that would be like that would be really fun to like come visit a house like that
where everything's big.
Where like, you're like everything is really tall.
Like the beginning of Goldilocks, you're just like, this one's too big. Everything's not fitting at all.
That'd be kind of fantastic.
Hilarious.
You could like rent out like you could allow people to like come in and buy tickets and like, you know what I mean? Like
try to exist how I like to exist.
Man, that's damn. Well, I'm glad you're here, man. I feel like this is a long time coming.
I know, man. I'm pumped. It's good to be here.
So you wrote the first one you played. You wrote that the other day.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 days ago.
Which is insane to me. When you're songwriting, I feel like you're a guy who does a lot of co-write stuff, right?
Certainly. Yeah. I just the nature of how the town works. My theory on it is the more people I co-write with, and the more I vary my co-writes, the different. More different avenues I have to possibly get them out to listening ears.
Yeah.
Because if I just have everything and I don't have but the connections I have, I'm always going to be limited to that. But if I keep adding in new co-writers, I don't even know what their connections are, nor do I care. I mean, I just hope that they're doing the work.
When you say connections, do you mean like creative connections?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like, the other songwriters that are in their camp and the people that they know. Because like it's all the networking aspect of the town.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's everything that happens to you is because of somebody you know.
Dude, it's funny. I was just telling this to Brian. It's funny doing this because we've only done 50 some episodes of this, but like I'll be going through, going to the grocery store or whatever, and I'll just see someone who's been on the show, and it is so funny because to me it's like it is such a real life representation of how small the world is.
Absolutely,
like it is funny, especially like Nashville is. On one hand, it seems like it's such a there's so much going on here, but. Yeah. The music scene is, at the end of the day, it's not that big, and that stuff will.
I like to think of Nashville as like a giant little town.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like you run into the same cast of characters in all these different places, and they'll be doing different stuff. And even like, I was in the Navy before I ever came to Nashville, and the whole running joke with the Navy is that it's like a really big small family. Because no matter what base you get stationed at, you're going to know like 20% of the people there, even though there's like hundreds of bases.
Yeah.
So you're always running into somebody in town and you might not have seen them in 3 or 4 years. And it's the same way here. I mean, somebody will be a, regular cast member in your life for a little while here, and then opportunities take them somewhere.
No, it's awesome. I mean, like that again. That's one of the things that's been so cool about doing this is it's just like excuses to see. Like I was talking to Brian before you got here. Like we just got a buddy book to come on in a couple months, and it's someone that we used to hang out with a ton and haven't seen him in years. It's like, it's just a cool excuse to do stuff like that, But
for sure.
So just give me a little bit of the like the backstory, origin story here, because I know obviously a good chunk of it just being your buddy, but like give me the background of how you got to this is such an interview question. Oh my god, I'm like grossing myself out asking this, but I'm just curious, like give me the background as to how you landed here in Nashville with the songwriting thing. So
I'm gonna long story short, the beginning.
No, keep it long. Who cares?
No, trust me, it'll give me more time to talk about what I can remember better. So I ended up trying college right out of high school. And I didn't have any direction. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
Because you're from North Carolina, right?
Yeah, I'm from like a town called Goldsboro, North Carolina. It's like an hour south of Raleigh. And I ended up going to UNC Wilmington, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And in my head, I was just wasting money because I didn't know what degree I wanted to get.
Yeah.
And I ended up leaving after 2 years. And then I was just, every guy in my family had gone in the military that was older than me. And I was like, well, that seemed to give them direction. So I went and did that, and I joined the Navy. And then I ended up getting hurt in the Navy and getting medically retired because of that. And I got out right before COVID hit. And when you get out of the military, you have the opportunity to go to school on the GI Bill. And I was looking around for like places and degrees, and I had more of an idea of like what I wanted to do. Like I was thinking about doing like mechanical engineering or something like that. That's sort of how my brain's wired. And I ended up helping my mom's friend who was remodeling a house. And she was, we were putting up drywall and stuff like that. And I'd brought my guitar over because I've played and sang since I was, like barely a teenager. And I had it over there, and she was just kind of, some people in your life just say the obvious thing, but you don't think about it, And she's just very blunt. And she was listening to me play while we were taking a break. And she was like, you really ought to do something with that. And I was like, I mean, it's fun. Like I love playing and singing and doing all that stuff. And she was listening for a second, and then she thoughtfully just kind of went, my nephew goes to this school called Belmont, and it's in Nashville, and he's getting a degree in audio engineering, but they have like music business degrees, and they have all this other stuff. So like you could be a part of the music scene and get paid for it. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So I ended up taking a tour at Belmont, and normally tours are a little bigger, but my tour was just me.
Oh, that's kind of awesome.
It was sick.
That's fantastic.
And who ended up giving the tour was a lady named Natalie Peterson, who I think she's moved on to Vanderbilt now. But at the time, she was like an important member, like a chair member of the songwriting program. So I'm there touring in the music business school, and she's giving me the tours, but the whole time she's putting it in my ear. She's like, we have a songwriting program. That didn't mean much to me because I'd never written a song, you know? So I was like, I mean, cool, you know? And then she was like, do you like to write songs? I was like, no, I never have. And then she would take me to some more of the buildings, and she just kept putting it in my ear. And she was like, what if you applied to the songwriting program too? You're allowed to apply to 2 schools. And I went, okay, I mean, I've never written a song. And she's like, well, the deadline's in 3 weeks. She's like, if you can write 2 songs in 3 weeks and submit them to this email here, you'll be entered in, considered to, you know, be among the candidates that we select for the songwriting program. And here, I mean, I'm sitting here, you know, your confidence is only whatever level you think it is.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I mean, I've never written a song, and there's going to be kids trying to come in here that have been writing their whole life and whatever. So I was like, okay, I'll give it some thought. And I go home, and like, if it was 3 weeks to the deadline, I had 2 days left, you know, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, I might as well. And my mom had these, I'd gone home after the Navy, and I was living with my parents during the COVID year. And my mom had those like 2x2 postage stamps that are almost like gag gifts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had a fat Sharpie, and I just was like writing on them just at first as a joke. And I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and try to write a song. So I wrote 2 songs in like 35 minutes. And I was like, well, once I got the first one done, I was like, oh, I get it. I was like, I've listened to a lot of music. I understand the form of songs.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, not to interrupt the train thing, but like, I think of it like, it's exactly to what you just said. You're taking in all this input throughout your entire life,
and you don't even realize it.
Exactly. It's like the John Prine story of him like going to that open mic and being like, what the fuck is this bullshit? I can do this. And then going home and trying to write. And of course he just bangs out some amazing, because it's like you may not have all of the mechanics down of how to streamline that process.
Certainly.
But you know what it's supposed to be. And I think that's such a huge benefit to some people. Like if you have great input over the course of your life,
absolutely,
you know what it's supposed to be shaped like. Like for you, what was the stuff that like was in the back of your mind when you were sitting there trying to write those songs down?
Well, one thing I had going for me that I realized sort of in retrospect was I was 26 whenever I was going back to college. So I'd lived a lot of life, you know, compared to like an 18-year-old recent high school senior. And I'd done a lot of cool stuff, and, you know, good, bad, ugly, all of it. I'd, you know, had almost another decade on the kids that were applying. And I think you just come across a lot of interesting stories and different ways of thinking and different ways of thinking about yourself. Because, you know, I'm very comfortable with who I am. And I think that that's one thing that I've always been very happy about. And I didn't have that at 18, but like if the military gave me one thing, it was letting me realize that I was strong enough to get through pretty much anything. So nothing's really a big deal to me. And I just kind of was sitting there thinking, like, I know all the songs. Like I love like 90s country, 80s country, classic stuff. My grandpa and my dad both did some Elvis impersonating, so I grew up with that sort of rockabilly thing. Yeah, man, it was sick in the house. The guitar I played on was my grandpa's. He bought it in 1965, and I only thought that it could play Elvis songs when I was a kid, because that's all that was ever played on it.
That guitar sounds fantastic. I'm love
so happy to have
it.
it.
It does sound really good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Yeah. I've got a J50 from the 50s, and those guitars, those 15 years or so of guitars.
The whole adjustable bridge era is like a
good.
special time in Gibson history. And one weird thing is it is hard to look up any information on them because they've changed the serial number stuff so many times. Like if it's a mid 60s, good luck.
Yeah, like the guy I got it from, he's I got it from him probably 15 years ago now, and he's had it for all of those years. So he had like all of the record of the guitar, which made it really easy. But that stuff is hard to really pin down. But I love the sound of those things. I love Martins. Like I think Martins, like even brand spanking new Martins out of the box, they sound great. I love the sound of those things. But there's something just not off, but there's something a little bit meaner, a little bit more. I don't even know how to describe the character, but the sound of like a vintage Martin versus a vintage Gibson. There's something about the Gibson that I don't know why. I'm just partial to it.
There's a reason that they were on everything in the 60s and 70s, man.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
For sure.
I mean, if it wasn't being played on a D18 or a D35, it was being played on a J45 or a J50.
Yeah, they've just got that. I'm starting to like. I'm starting to get to that point where I might need to be buying another guitar, and I don't need to be, but it's like I haven't bought. I buy a guitar once every like 5 years, 6 years. Like it never happens, you know.
Right.
And
you get the itch sometimes.
It's been years, and I woke up a couple weeks ago. And I was like, it's like getting a cold or something. You're like,
here it comes.
Here it comes. Oh my god! But no, I was telling Brian, I was like, it might have to get another guitar soon. Like it might have to happen. I want to get. I'd love to get an old Gibson like 12 string from the 60s. Dude. I love this. Oh my god, I love those things.
So one of the guys that I wrote the janitor with, his name's Marcus Smith, and the other guy's named Andrew Bates, and he's a phenomenal fiddle player. But Marcus, I met him at a bluegrass jam a couple weeks ago. And he showed up with this 1967 Martin. It's one of the ones that the headstock or the neck stops at the 12th fret.
Okay.
And it's like a slope shoulder D28, I think. But it sounded incredible, and it's got me itching for a 12 fret something.
Yeah, God.
There's
nothing worse than being a guitar or being a musician in general and just getting
There's nothing worse
the
than
itch.
Getting the itch and not having money.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, that is correct.
Like I remember like in the 2010, I mean, I don't remember it, but I was seeing videos about the 2010 flood, and you hear certain people like, yeah, Brad Paisley lost like 700 guitars in the flood, and that's like a quarter of his collection. And I was just sitting there like sad for his loss, but also like a quarter of his collection.
Where are the other guys at?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's crazy.
Do you want something to drink, man?
No, I'm okay. I'm good.
Alexa, could you do me a favor? Could you? There's some beverages in the fridge. Could you grab me one if you don't mind? Oh, you're the bomb. You're the bomb diggity. Alexa, you're the bomb. Thank you so much. You're the bomb diggity. I just think that's like it never ends. That's the problem too, is it never ends with instruments. Is you can get something and then you just fall in love with it, and then I think it's because like you're the goal of the tools change over time, right? Like so there's times where a certain instrument will be exactly what you need in that mindset to accomplish the task, right? And then your what you're trying to accomplish changes, and so the tool needs to change, and it's this sort of never-ending loop of, which I think is probably a good thing because it means creatively you're trying to go to different,
and you're growing.
You're the bomb, Diggity. Thank you so much.
And like
thank you.
In the respect of like growing and stuff, like I used to always think that I was going to be a dreadnought only, like that's what I like. It's and then I started getting into like Dave Rawlings and Gillian Welch and listening to him play an arch top, you know, to back her up, and I'm listening to that high tinny thing that I thought I hated, but it's all about context,
for sure.
Because there's sometimes it's like how a D18 or a D28 cuts through the mix in a bluegrass jam, even though you might not want to be a singer-songwriter with a D28. It's got its time where it's just exactly the right tool for the job.
I love those little parlor acoustics.
Yeah, they're sick.
Like, it's never ending. It's never ending. Another thing I want to ask you about too is when you're writing, you write, and I shouldn't say oftentimes, but there's many times where you'll write in character.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Because I feel like that's not something that's all that common, and it's more common in country music probably than elsewhere. But
I think I've just always enjoyed the story songs. Like one of the first things I remember like really knowing all the words to was like "Oh Red," And, you know, those things that like take you out of place. And like the first song I ever wrote, to get back to that a little, with like the big Post-it note thing, I wrote this song called Deanne, and it was about this guy who was on death row, and he was writing letters to this girl named Deanne. And so the whole time he's like, I'm going to get the chair soon, but they won't tell me what day. And he just keeps writing all the letters, and it's like over the years, because, you know, death row can last however long they want it to. And so the first song I ever wrote was a story song. And I think because of that, I just always, in my head, think that it's an option. And if it's an option, it should be explored, because if you don't have anything else to think about that day in the writing room, just make up a story, you know? Because, I mean, just as a kid, I read all the time, and I loved like fantasy books and all this kinds of stuff, and just going to these places that I'd never been. And I can kind of do that with songs. I can put myself in positions that I would not be in, you know?
As someone who does a lot of co-writing, what do you think are the strong suits that you bring to that dynamic?
Being a good listener, first and foremost, like not just dying on a hill of like, this is what I want to write today. Because you'll find more often than not, if you're agreeable in the beginning, you'll end up forming your circles in a way that you get to have your voice often enough. So like when I meet a lot of people, especially if it's like a write with like an aspiring artist or a established artist or whatever, I let them tell me what they want to do that day. And I will give any input that they want. And if they have nothing, I'll provide whatever. But I think first and foremost, just being agreeable to the room and being a good listener sets you up for success better than anything else.
When you're writing with people, how do those situations usually get set up? I mean, my understanding is that you do work a lot with like newer songwriters, younger songwriters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Folks who are, you know, kind of dipping their toes into it. How do you two get in the same room?
A lot of my like networking contacts that I have are either directly from Belmont, you know, because in the songwriting program, everybody I was sitting beside is a songwriter. Yeah. And the professors are songwriters, and they know other songwriters. And if they think that you fit a certain mold, they'll put you in rooms with people. And it's all about like the value of a songwriting degree is, in my opinion, almost completely the networking. Because you build up a base of a couple hundred contacts that, like, if it's a slow month, you can just go through and be like, oh, I remember I had songwriting 2 with this guy, and let me see what he's up to, you know? And like, that's how that, and then word of mouth of like being somebody that people like to write with. I'll have some people like message me and be like, hey, I'm friends with so-and-so. They said they love writing with you, you know? And it's a combination of like me putting, like, I'd say it's almost 50-50 at this point, like me putting in the effort of reaching out to people, and then me getting reached out to, which feels really nice when someone's like, I've heard that
that's really cool.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even on an ego thing, but like when someone gives a recommendation about you to a stranger, that feels great.
Oh, for sure. Like, that was one of the big things with this too, is like when people started reaching out to us to be on the show, like that felt really cool. Yeah. Like, not even an ego thing, but just like, oh, nice. Like, okay, people want to be involved.
Well, that's like all what organic growth is it's building a conversation that allows other people to find interest in it. And like, you're not forcing interest upon anybody, but you know, you do a cool thing for long enough and people are going to start to notice and want to be a part of it. And I think that's what you guys are doing here, and you're doing a good job.
Appreciate it, dude.
So,
Brian, how have you been? I feel like we haven't had a conversation in forever, just like you and I talking, you know? It's been a hot minute.
Been good.
I feel like the most we've talked is like been on this show recently, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
Not a bad thing. It's, you know, this is what we get to do this. That's why I think we should, anytime we do this show, I'm like, it's nice when we have friends on, because then it allows you to like not necessarily just talk about not to be like handcuffed to music shit. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, it's fun with other people too. Like,
it can get stale just talking about the same.
Yeah. I mean, that's an important, like, I think about it all the time. For every like good co-write I have with somebody, I want to have a good just hangout. You know what I mean? Like, because you got to keep that balance healthy. Otherwise, people are going to associate you with like work. You know, not that it's hard.
Part of it is just that. You know, part of it is just, it sounds silly, but it's the hang. It's
absolutely.
Being able to,
if you can't hang with somebody, good luck making meaningful art with them.
Oh yeah, it's like being on tour with someone. I mean, you want a really good bass player, but you also want a really good bass player that you can sit in a van with for like, exactly. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. Well, so last time I saw you, you've had something big happen in life. You're now engaged, which is crazy.
I am. that's been a wild whirlwind of emotions and everything there.
How's that been on the other side of that?
It's been great. Yeah. Having the ring in my pocket, waiting to do it was awful. Like,
okay, give me the rundown. Tell me what happened. Give me the rundown.
My birthday was like a week before ended up being during the ice storm, but I left like a week before to go back to North Carolina for my birthday, because me and my brother have a birthday a week apart, and we usually split the difference and celebrate in the middle. And I went home, and a couple months back, Kendall was my fiance, and she had this ring given to her from her grandma, that it had something in it, and she was thinking it was a sapphire, and it was just this really dark stone, and I don't know much, but like sapphires are usually blue, which you'll find out in a second. I was doubly wrong on that too. But she really loved the ring. It was like this offset cool thing, and I kind of snuck it away a couple months ago with the intention of taking it and then replacing the center stone with like an engagement diamond. And so I snuck that with me when I went home. And I dropped it off day one, picked out a diamond, got it all, squared away. And the family jeweler that my mom's jeweler she went to since she was little that I used, he was like, okay, the stone in the middle is a black onyx. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And he's like, but around the side, there's 6 white sapphires. So I guess they can be white too. But that's why somebody was thinking it was a sapphire ring. And so I made sure that, one, the ring was real, because I had no concept of anything. Like, I'm a guy. I don't know. You know what I mean?
You have no idea.
I wanted to make sure. I wanted to put a diamond on real gold. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want it to be like costume jewelry. And so I made sure everything was good and got it appraised and stuff. And then I picked out a diamond, and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to get this done in the turnaround time with you being here like 3 or 4 days. And I was like, all right. I mean, we'll see. Like, I'll figure out what I got to do. And then, unfortunately for me, but fortunately in the big scheme of getting the ring, I ended up losing 2 great uncles and my family dog that week. So I got to prolong my stay because of funerals. And that's
Kendall won out apparently.
So I ended up staying long enough. Yeah, it was tough, man. But like, everybody was sick, it wasn't, none of it was, it wasn't unexpected, but I didn't expect it to all happen in like a 3-day time.
That's awful. I'm so sorry.
It's life, man. It's tough, but you don't want to see people suffer, and you don't want to see old dogs suffer. My dog was a couple months away from being able to legally vote if she was a person, so she was ready to go. But that happened. So then I ended up staying long enough, and then the last day I was in town, which was for the last funeral, Alan called me, and he was like, I got the ring ready. And I was like, well, that's, I've had a pretty bad week, but that's really good news. It's
silver linings, guys. And gold linings, I should say.
This whole time, the power's out at my house back in Nashville. So Kendall's sitting there with no power, and it's 28 degrees in the house, and she's having the worst week of her life. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, man, if I can get back with this ring, I could turn the end of the week into the best week.
I can turn this around.
Because I was in trouble, dude. I missed the whole storm. I didn't have to help with anything. Like, I was in hot water in that regard. And I was like, I got to get out of this. So my original plan was to propose on our 3-year, which hasn't even happened yet. It'll be like the end of February. And by the time I got back into town, I had that ring in my pocket, and I was just like the episode of SpongeBob where he's like, doesn't have any water, and he's just like, I need it. Like, I had to get that thing out of my damn pocket, dude. Like, I was just sitting there. I couldn't sleep the first night I got back.
And also Kendall, I've known Kendall for years, and she's a very, she's an astute person. She I feel like it's hard to throw her off. So was that in the back of your head too? Like, she's going to find out.
Well, she told me, she was like, know. If I sniff out that you're going to propose, like if you like book a weekend trip and I feel like it's going to happen, she's like, I'm going to ruin it for you just to be funny. And my main goal was to not let her ruin the engagement.
But it's like a pretty worthy goal.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's the thing that I love about our relationship is that we're constantly just attacking each other, like emotionally, spiritually, every way you can, but in the healthiest way possible. And, it's a fun way to exist, to not, it's not like a regular like movie relationship. It's like a real life thing. And I love it. But I knew I had to surprise her. So we got back, and then the day after I got back, we got power. So we went back, and there was a tree limb across, like a huge one across the driveway. And our driveway, it's like, is a steep angle. So I had to get that thing out of there to like be able to like pull in and park, because we still had like, 3 inches of ice and 4 inches of snow. And so I'm sitting there and I'm chopping wood with the ring in my pocket, and I'm just like, I gotta get this out of here. And
it's like you got drugs on you.
Yeah,
you know
dude.
what I mean?
I was like, I was sitting there. I got pulled over, and there was a hot pipe under the seat, dude. I was like, I gotta get rid of this thing. And I ended up, the power came back on, thank God. And then we went to the grocery store and got groceries, and we made like a really nice dinner. And I knew that like she'd, eaten warm food for the first time in a couple of days, like had power, got to take a hot shower. Like I was like, she is as comfy as she's going to get.
See, this is perfect, because what you just described is like basic amenities of the 21st century, and like I'm so glad that's where the bar was.
Yeah,
I
was like, I brought her back to living in a first world environment, and she got as comfy as I could get her, and then she went to go change into pajamas, and I just like kneeled down at our bedroom door waiting for her to open it, and she was just dicking around for like 9 minutes in the bedroom. I heard her like brushing her teeth and like listening to TikToks, and I'm just on my knee, my hamstrings like cramping, and I'm just like holding the ring out.
You're like, I'm a wounded veteran, damn it.
I'm like, dude, 9 minutes on one knee is about the longest I've gone. And she finally opens the door, and my big ass hand is blocking the ring. So she thinks that it's just like ironically funny that I happen to be on one knee, and she's like, ha ha. And I just go, no, really. And I like flatten my hand out, and then I proposed, and then, she said yes after some, laughing. But I'm engaged now, so that's sick.
Well, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Nice.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense. Proposing to Kendall in that fashion, that seems to check all the boxes I would expect.
If I had tried to make a trip out of it, she would have wrecked the car if she thought that I was going to do it, just to be a dick in the best way.
I would not be surprised by that at all. That storm was pretty wild. It was rough down here. I'm sure that was hard for you guys too.
Well, I mean, we didn't get his bad. We were more coastal, but the roads to get back here were destroyed.
All right, everything was closed, or like work for me was closed for a whole week.
Well, Kendall ended up staying at her work because it was the only thing that had power.
Oh yeah. So how do we feel about ghosts,
dude?
This is a strong segue here. How do we feel about ghosts?
I believe in them now.
Wait, so I kind of heard your guys' conversation when you first came in, but what, your guys' place is haunted?
So the work is at an old mansion, and there's been some ghost hunts and ghost tours that have gone on there that I've been a part of, and I've seen firsthand like responses to like, there's these like EMP bells that you can ring once for yes and ring twice for no, and they're so definitive. Like it's not like kind of yes or kind of no. They'll get slapped. And you'll hear like for yes, it's like ding, and then no is like ding, ding. Like, I mean, it's just, you get direct yes or no answers to questions. And they line up to like historical facts and questions you ask.
That's wild.
And so we'd seen that, but the night we got back, we actually stayed at her work. And
where is this?
It's in Sumner County.
Like what is it?
The Sumner County Tourism Building.
Oh, okay.
It's like it was called the Comer House, and they used to have like Tennessee walking horses and stuff there in the 1800s.
Okay.
And there's just been a couple hundred years of history in the house, so you're going to, I don't know, depending on what you believe. I've seen and heard enough weird stuff. Not just that, but like I have other experiences that have been on that. But there's like clearly something going on at the Comer House.
Yeah, how do we feel overall about ghosts? What's the verdict?
I don't believe, but I want to so bad.
Yeah, I think I'm the same.
I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I'd go to like with my friends to like allegedly haunted places and never saw shit.
I think a lot of times it's about the energy that you're giving off. Like,
I
feel like
that.
They probably have to work harder if you're totally against it.
I wasn't against it though. I was like, dude, we're getting haunted tonight.
I always wonder too how much of it is like you said, it's like your psychological disposition, right? And
Certainly.
It's also like the environment that you're into. Like I remember one time my mother, when my sister was a baby, my mom stayed in the Stanley Hotel in Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
And which we've spent quite a bit. My family spent quite a bit of time there just because I've got family in Colorado. And she late one night, she woke up and she saw someone standing over the crib, like just looking down at my baby sister. And I always think like something like that. Okay, like obviously, in my heart of hearts, I don't think there's a ghost in the room there, but at the same time,
that sounds like sleep paralysis.
And she had,
which I feel like a lot of people get sleep paralysis, and they're like, "Oh, I saw a ghost."
Yeah,
because
sure.
I've had that.
Oh yeah, and she's had some sleep paralysis stuff like unrelated to the Stanley Hotel in her life. So like to me, I can chalk that up to like that's some kind of, you're in an environment where that's already in your head. Yeah. You know what I mean? She's definitely predisposed to having shit like that just because she has weird sleep paralysis stuff. So it's like that kind of thing I can chalk up to, okay, that's pretty environmentally driven, etc. But then you'll hear some stories and you think, I don't know why that's like that. That's kind of odd.
Yeah, I mean, like I believe that there's a lot on both sides of the fence for me, because I do believe like certain people, like if you're making a lot of money doing anything, I'm skeptical. Yeah. So like a lot of like the ghost hunter shows and stuff.
I used to love those shows.
I mean, who didn't?
They're
dude?
so stupid, yeah, but they
so
hook you in, and
it's like being a 9-year-old kid watching SmackDown or Raw. You know what I mean? Like it's not real, but damn it, you're invested.
They get you.
You got to see if Rey Mysterio can take down the Great Khali.
Or a 30-year-old man watching the same thing.
Yeah, 30, 40, 50-year-old man watching it. It's not real, but you're going to see the end of it.
You're going to cry anyway. Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's what you bring to it. It is what you bring to it. I think it would be nice to. I think part of me believes in some way.
I think there's just not a way of knowing either way. So why would I close myself off completely to anything?
Totally.
Like I can't definitively tell you almost anything about life.
Yeah.
I don't have the authority to do that.
I guess for me, when I think of ghosts, it's it can get so muddled with the sort of cultural components of it. You know what I mean? Like to me, whenever I hear a story, I am very skeptical of things like that. So I'll hear something and I'll think, okay, it could be a ghost, or it could be this laundry list of other things that are far more likely than being a ghost. But then at the same time, when I sit down and actually critically think about it, I think, yeah, but why couldn't it be a ghost?
Look, I don't have the answers.
You can't prove they're not real.
No, I can't prove any of it. And it's just, I guess, more fun to chalk up what I've experienced to reality. You know what I mean?
I want to believe.
It'd be cool to live in like a haunted house, like to have your home be like a haunted house.
If they were chill with you.
I would 100% live in a haunted house.
I think it could be kind of fun. No? Okay.
She's not down, but
Alexa's like, no, we're not doing that.
One of my roommates when I was in the Navy was like very strict, like Hispanic Catholic. And I love horror movies, and he was so not about it. And I remember one time I was watching La Llorona, and he heard the name, and he came in the room and he cut the TV off, and then he brought a crucifix into my room and he nailed it to the door frame of my room.
Like Nightmare on Elm Street. That's hilarious.
He's like, you're not getting me dragged into this, dude. I'm not gonna go down for you.
That is fantastic.
So.
All right, a quick pause to tell you about something local that I really believe in. Our friend Joe just launched Neon Belly MMA in East Nashville. And I'll say this, I've known and grappled with Joe for years, and he's been my Muay Thai and MMA coach for a while now. So when I tell you he knows what he's doing, I'm just a little bit biased.
It's a community-focused martial arts gym offering group classes and personal training for folks of all experience levels.
What I respect about what Joe's building is that it's not just about fighting. It's about learning real, practical self-defense while also improving your mental health, pushing yourself physically, and learning to think under pressure. And doing it in a safe, inclusive environment with good people.
If you've ever thought about training but felt intimidated, this is that entry point.
And right now, they're doing 2 great promos for listeners of this podcast. The first 20 people get 2 weeks free, and if you sign up with a friend, you both get your second month free.
Go follow them on Instagram at neon_belly MMA and check out neonbellymma.com. If you're in East Nashville and you've been looking for something that challenges you in the best way, this might be it.
All right, back to the show.
Well, can I fight Joe?
Yeah, it would be, because it's funny too, because I think that, okay, obviously so many people in the world have a sort of religious component to their life, right? Have a spiritual component. Right. Even people who I think would call themselves more secular, they still have belief in some sort of spiritual, not everyone obviously, but a lot of people, there is a sort of belief in the soul or this sort of spiritual component to existence. And and yet when we talk about things like ghosts, for whatever reason, it's this wholly detached thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and then there's ghosts over here.
I
Which,
think
like,
just
no
because
way, they're
you
not real.
have so many people making Hollywood movies about it, and you know, it gets
anything sensationalized is tough to. You know.
The same thing with like aliens, you know what I mean? There's been so many
there's
movies.
Definitely aliens.
There's definitely aliens, but then there's also been so many movies of like little green men and the flying saucer, and
but
it's
but I think the best movies that deal with that can, yes, there are great depictions of aliens in the sense that we think of them in the sort of, you know, in the zeitgeist, right? Little green men, bald, big eyes, that sort of thing. But I think, like, to me, when I think of aliens, I am without question of the belief that there's other life out there, right? But I think of it but I think of it like, you know, we had a bunch of ants in our house recently, right? And so I think of it like, you know, those ants crawling along on the floorboards. They cannot even perceive. They have no ability to perceive that I am there perceiving them. It's just they have no ability to even begin to understand the world in that way, right? Now they perceive the world through their own senses, and they, you know, they navigate it as such, but they cannot even begin to fathom that. It's just not in their ability to do so. And I imagine aliens are, if they do exist, which again I would believe they have to. They exist in the same way. Whereas like
we're just beyond our comprehension.
We can't. I bet we interplay with them in some way constantly, and yet we just can't even think about it.
If you have the capacity to, you know, ignore laws of physics and bend space time, and I mean, how would you? To put it in perspective, how would you have a conversation with the ants to let them know you were there and let them know you were friendly?
Oh, yeah.
They probably can't even communicate to us if they are there. You know what I mean? Like, not in a meaningful way that we wouldn't, you know, have a heart attack from.
And that's why I think great art can do. Like, there's some great novels, there's some great films that can scratch the surface of that.
I love exploring the possibilities of what they could
because it's almost like it feels like, how do I communicate with that ant? Or rather, how would that ant communicate with me, even if I could?
Certainly.
You know, like, there's got to be cool. There's got to be stuff out there. I want us to get to other planets so bad. This is okay. We're talking about all kinds of shit. I don't even care. This is a real thing, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Okay. So I had to ask Darby recently, like, okay, if we ever get the chance to go to another planet, say like Mars, right? I'm going. I want my family to. I want to be the people in the wagon heading west.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I think I have this theory, and
I'll probably wait a few.
And I want to know
rounds of settlers before
Here's what I want to know, because I have this theory. And this is a lot of this is just something that I just sort of feel more than I can actually intellectually unpack. So I want to hear your thoughts on this and kind of where you stand. I think through all of human existence, part of what makes us human is that want, need, desire to look over the hill beyond us and want to see what's over there, right?
Yeah.
And for all of human existence, we have had some kind of relationship with that, right? With that feeling of wanting to explore. And I think it's, and there are many people through history who have not acted on that. The majority have not acted on that. But then you've had people in history who have done that. It's always been a component of being a person. There will be people who want to head in that direction and see what's there, right? What's over the next hill.
Yeah.
And over the last few centuries now, we have, yes, there are things to discover in the world. Obviously, we haven't turned over every rock, and I don't want to sound as vain to. I don't want it to seem like we have, but the world is mapped now, and we sort of we for the last few generations we're that first few generations of people that have ever existed that have never that don't have anywhere to point that now.
Yeah,
right?
we have no outlet.
We have no outlet to point that thing that I think is just it's such a core component of being a human being.
Yeah,
and I don't know why, but it makes me sad. It makes me really happy that, okay, there's a chance because of the just incredible ingenuity of my fellow human beings that like, okay, I can't get there and my kids probably won't, but maybe like my grandkids, maybe somewhere down the line, there will be, not too far, there will be an opportunity for other people to do that elsewhere. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that like, oh my God, if you could just do that, it would be so beautiful. Like I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that. I don't know why you wouldn't want to try to explore existence now. Like where do you fall on that? I know that was absolute word vomit, but like,
I mean, I think someone's always got to be there to plant the seeds, right?
Yeah.
And in this metaphor, you know, if you plant the seed, you might not be the one that gets to eat the fruit or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So in that same regard of like going west, the guy that was loading up his family and going out to California for the first time, he wasn't expecting life to be how it was when he left. I mean, even though they probably left because of a litany of reasons, but like there wasn't going to be a town. He was going to have to get there and help build the town.
Yeah.
And like he wasn't going to get those amenities of life that he had probably had on the way. And in the same regard, you know, anybody, if we didn't have that innate desire to achieve things in the unknown realm, we wouldn't have any like inventions or anything. We would have never flown. We would have never had submarines. We would have never done anything if somebody hadn't tried something that had never been done before. So that component of humanity is always going to exist, and it's inevitably going to lead to whatever our options are. If it's possible for us to go somewhere else and you know, have a habitat that supports life, that, you know, because I don't think, like, let's say we could go to Mars and get a quantity of people there that would be worth it, unless you had a ability to make it to where you wouldn't have to constantly be in a spacesuit. Like that to me is not living there.
Yeah.
You know, like we would have to have some sort of ability to like terraform things in that regard.
And many people have also pointed out that like the purpose of doing something like that is, you know, if don't get me wrong, getting to Mars is better than not getting to Mars, but that can't be the end goal, because you're only however far from Earth to Mars. If something happens to Earth, more than likely it's going to be happening to Mars anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like you need this sort of leapfrog mentality of, okay, we're going to keep
we
expanding.
got an outpost here, now let's go as far as we can see this way and keep going.
There's just something about, like, I love whatever that, and this is where this ties into art for me. I think there is just that core component of ingenuity to people that I love, and part of that through history has been trying to utilize that in a way to discover new places, to discover new worlds, you know.
I think one of the beautiful things about having a soul is, if you know think about what it, you know, supposedly is, technically it's like this boundless energy that's like contained in a body that like you don't know what to do with. And like in the speaking of like the outlets and stuff, that's the reason that we go out and achieve, is because we have all this like desire to do something, but we don't always have a direction to head in and don't know what to do with it. But it's the same reason we create art. It's the same reason we fall in love and decide to build something with other people and like build community. And we have this desire in us that's just never ceasing to be more than just alone and what we are. Like we want to create more, do more, experience more, and you'll never get enough. I mean, the people that like die going off on adventures, they did it because they couldn't stand the fact that there might be something that like they hadn't seen yet. You know what I mean? And like you have like, you know, I think about the people that got like their boats beached in like the ice and like the Antarctic and all that stuff, and like they had to live for like 2 years and stuff.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, like, but that story's happened. I mean, if you think about any story that we can read about, we've probably had 10,000 versions of that never made it to print. You know?
Oh yeah, the
like getting to America.
Spirit, oh my God, the human spirit is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, what we have continuously gone up against and continuously.
Well, like, you want to tell me how people got to Hawaii? Think about how far that is from anywhere else, and they were there on like a canoe, dude. You know, like we have inhabited places. That's Hawaii is like 1300s Mars.
If we can get to Hawaii, we can get to Mars. Damn it!
You know what I'm saying? Like, because we got people that just have it in them to get in a makeshift raft and just be like, all right, the ocean's got to stop somewhere.
Yeah,
you know, and that's like. It's the courageous aspect is incredible.
Point that way and let's just go.
Yeah.
Oh, I love American history, and it boggles my mind how those people accomplish what they did. It's unbelievable. And don't get me wrong, like people that spirit is still part of being a human being. We still interplay with that all the time. We see that every day of our lives, but that just boggles my mind, the fact that people can do that shit.
Well, I think the reason you don't see it so often anymore in a kind of sombering way is like, I think we're getting our dopamine fix artificially.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go out and do something brand new to get the feeling of like, oh, look at this guy, he jumped out of a plane without a parachute. Like, you get to watch that, and then like in some brain way, if your brain perceives something, it's almost the same as if you went through it yourself.
Yeah.
So we get this feeling of having accomplishment just sitting on our couch watching people do other stuff. It's why I think people watch people play video games, and why I think
which I think is okay. So as someone who like I teach kids all day, right?
Yeah.
So like I am constantly exposed to kids talking about watching people play video games, which to me is the weirdest thing. Please, I want to hear it because I don't understand it.
Well, I think it's kind of like podcasts. Like, you could make the same argument. Why would you want to listen to people have a conversation? You know what I mean? Like, it's
in a similar vein to that, but I think
it's parasocial relationships is like a big part of it.
Right, and it starts with like, I think the attention span has gotten smaller, and I think that you want instant gratification. So in an instant gratification mindset, is it easier to spend the time to learn how to play exactly like Stevie Ray Vaughan, which could take you 2 lifetimes?
Ask Brian.
Or is it easier to go and watch Stevie Ray Vaughan and people that can do it on YouTube all day long? Mm-hmm. Or is it easier to learn how to be the second best player on the planet of some video game? Or do you just want to hop in a live stream and watch that guy go to work? And you get to feel the feeling of success because you're watching somebody mop the floor.
Without actually having to put in the work to do it yourself.
And it's an instant gratification thing.
I wonder how much, this is why I love doing this stupid show, because I get to have conversations like this. But like, I wonder how much of that is dependent on your disposition as a person, right?
Totally.
Because like... So, like, for example, I'm trying to think the best way to articulate this. Look, for one thing, I think I agree with all that. I would say that the attention span thing is really interesting because I get very mixed signals for how this works, right? On one hand, I do think our attention span for a certain segment of the population is diminishing to next to nothing. I mean, it's and even doing this podcast, it's fascinating because we get to look at like the analytics on the other side of it, and you get to see how short that attention span is for certain people. So I think for a certain segment of the population, it's definitely dwindling. But then also you have, the fact that something like this, which is long form, where we're sitting here talking about whatever. There are some of the most popular versions of what this format is are segments that are 3-4 hours long, mm-hmm. right?
But I also think people aren't like just listening to a podcast and that's it, right? They listen to podcasts while they're working or doing other shit.
That's true.
I think too, with that regard, like especially long form podcasts, like there's you're always going to have your people that are just like the highlight clippers, and that's mm-hmm. its own thing. That's if you got 20 minutes to kill. But I think something that might explain like long form listeners and long form watchers is, you think about, we have such a desire for community. Even if you're an introvert, as a human being, you have this desire for community. And like watching you guys have like a good rapport with each other and your guests is going to be,
you kind of feel like you're part of it.
It's going to be comforting to someone. Yeah. So like, even if they don't know you personally, they can almost feel like they're part of the conversation, and you get that sense of community that like maybe you just needed that while you were eating mm-hmm. dinner. You know what I mean? Like maybe
for sure.
You didn't want to eat alone. So you ate with a conversation among strangers, mm-hmm. And I think that explains a lot of the long term or long form content. But just seeking out community in general, I think people that don't maybe, and I'm not talking down on anyone at all, but like there's no shame in maybe not having your confidence where it should be, mm-hmm. But I think some people that like maybe don't have the confidence to go out and create a community of their own or ingratiate themselves into a community, the first step that's easier is joining the listening community of a Twitch streamer or a podcaster or, you know what I mean? Because it's safe.
And
you can be anonymous.
It's going to be interesting to see what like the future generations look like who kind of grow up not really talking to people nearly as much as we did, and they grow up literally just watching podcasters or Twitch streamers or whatever.
Like who are the kids of the iPad kids?
Yeah, how are these people going to interact with the world? I feel like it's going to be almost like a different species of human, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that's got to have a dramatic impact.
And it's also like
on the way somebody is.
Certainly.
I think about like, again, this is why I go back to disposition, right? Because like, for example, I love the only sport I follow, we've talked about this, the only sport I follow really, I love MMA, right? I love fighting. I'm fascinated by fighting. I've been a fan of it for years. You know, I compete in like jiu-jitsu and stuff. I've done that for a long while, but like I've never done an MMA fight in my life, you know? And then, you know, as just someone who loves that form, it's like, well, fuck it. You know, I'm pushing 30, like, let's do it. And so, you know, I'm doing my first fight in a couple weeks.
That's awesome.
But my point for saying that is like, I love a thing, so I want to participate in the thing. And now I think this is a good example because it's stupid, right? There's no reason to do it other than the love of the thing. Like I love the for lack of a better word, the science of the thing. I think it's fascinating, right? And so I'm really intrigued by that because I find a lot of people can love a thing but not want to take that step to participate. Does that make sense? I don't know why that is. Like, I feel like it has to be a personality thing, right?
There's definitely, I mean, you know, there's type A, type B, type C people, and there's going to be some people that are content in observing, and some people, like the same way that you want to trailblaze and go, you know, be one of the first colonies on Mars, some people have that in them to where like it's not good enough just watching it. Like, yeah, that might satiate you a little bit, but you're going to have this desire to go out and do it. And like, you want to live, dude, get hit in the face a couple times.
And that's what I think history teaches you that I think a lot of people might not be privy to, which is that history is really forged ahead by the minority.
Absolutely. Always has been.
And that's not to say like that's not to put down the majority. That's not to like wag your finger at the majority of human existence. But the things that really push us forward and that we are in awe of are those individuals who try to do those things that seem impossible. Like I've talked about this on the show before, but like one of the things that blows my mind because it's such a real world example of this is recording technology. I mean, we've had recording technology for what, 149 years. And like, we know how it went down. Like, we know the people that figured out this, we know the people who figured out this, we know the people who put it together. Like, and it's these very, very small list of individuals who figured out a problem that all of human, like, okay, I did this past week, I did this thing with, one of the classes I teach is like a music technology course.
Right.
And what I did is I found, I had like a measuring stick in my office, right? And I brought this measuring stick out for the kids. And I said, okay, we figured out how to record 150 years ago. Let's round up to 200 years, right? And I've got, centimeters, millimeters. Yeah. Okay. Here's that long ago that we figured out how to do this. All right. We started writing music on a staff, 1,100 years ago, something like that. Right. All right. We got that far. And then you've got the rest of this fucking stick where we didn't have any of that. And it's crazy to think that like human beings it's individuals who figure that out. Yeah. And obviously it's individuals who build off of the experience and knowledge of other individuals. But I just think that the recording technology thing to me is sort of a funny example because it's so recent that we know their middle names. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you want to hear an interesting theory on that?
I'd love to.
Okay. So as we've grown as a species and gotten to be where we can, live and congregate in more and more large numbers, the importance of like tribalness has gone away. Like, you don't have to stay with your group, like your clan, your your tribe, everything. Like, it hasn't had to be that way in quite a while for us. And in the scheme of everything, it's been a blink of an eye. But like, we need to record things now because there's so many different backgrounds, so many different things going on. Where like, if you were a part of the same like 40 group person that lived in the same village for 2,000 years, you would have the oral traditions of everything because it was all told mouth to mouth to everyone around you.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, you would hear songs that like your great grandpa sang, you know? So I think music has always been around, and melody certainly has always been around. And it was probably just passed. Like, there's such a power of oral tradition, and I'm not good at, you know, giving direct names and quotes and stuff, but I saw this one TED Talk one time about like the power of oral tradition, and they're explaining how far it went back and how, you know, you can, all those melodies that you just hear in your chest, like ancestral melodies, they've been there for a reason because they have staying power.
Oh yeah, we've had music for longer than we've had language.
That's what I'm saying.
That's one of the things. Again, I show my kids like the history of how long we've had music for.
Right.
I mean, I think.
But I'm saying I don't think it was important to record it because everyone knew it.
Yeah, when there was just only there. It's just in the zeitgeist.
When you stayed with your group forever, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying like that's where we were.
What do you think? What do you think are the repercussions of having a world that is so integrated? Because obviously there's immense benefit to it, right? But one of the things that is very interesting is really over the last few centuries now, we've had a world where human beings are vastly more interconnected, right? Just geographically speaking, we have the ability to have more access to other human beings. But then, really, in the last quarter of a century, the last 25 years, that has, I mean, all of those walls have really gone down with the creation of the internet and the way that or at least I shouldn't say the creation of the internet, but the form the internet now takes. All of those walls are non-existent anymore. So what do you think the drawbacks are of a world like that? I love that we're talking about this on this show.
I want to start by saying the positives. I think first and foremost, your access of experience goes through the roof. Like, you can get on, like, I can go live on my TikTok today and be talking to somebody from like central China. And if we can use the translate thing enough, we can have a meaningful conversation. And like, that is invaluable. The fact that you can reach out and do that. And I don't even know if there's any like hard stop, like negatives to anything, but like, I guess just like what I was talking about with like the tribal stuff a little bit ago, it would be easy when you have access to everything. It would be hard to hold on to just what's important to like who you were, who your line was. So I think as, you know, we become more homogenous over time, you know, traditions may go out the door a little bit, like, and not even like,
definitely,
you know, like something like to that effect of like, maybe like,
because like, do you even think there will, like 100 years from now, like, do you even think there will be oral tradition anymore?
I don't think there'll be a need for it.
Well, because I think people are also just bombarded with so much information all the time. Like, what is anything going to stick? Because I feel like the next generation will get bombarded with a whole other set of shit. And it's like,
I think it'll be, if we could live that long, it would look so alien to us that we would definitely say that it has completely eroded and to the you know, no traditions, no anything. But like, it's sort of like how, I mean, even like meme culture has arrived. And I would say that even our generation, like, we're on the tail end of understanding it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Well, I love when we were born because I feel like we were right on the cusp. The internet was a thing, but it wasn't what it was now.
No, and it was inaccessible to most people.
The social media wasn't a thing, and even, you know, there was like MySpace and shit, but it was just like,
that was just saw
what your friends posted.
Yeah, that was just to show your top 3 songs.
Exactly,
you know?
yeah. And
but I think that also the other thing too is and I almost want to like preface this by saying there's positives to this too, but one of the things that is not great is that I think that need for tribe, that need for us versus them, right, which is so innate in human existence.
It was for safety first and foremost.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, like, and that's why I don't think, as long as we're human beings, and maybe one day we'll transcend that. Maybe one day we will be something else. But I think as long as we're human beings, that's baked into the cake, so to speak. And I think what I fear is that takes form and is taking form in different ways now. And so we see that tribalism play out in things like we see that tribalism in politics, right? Like, at least
you see it play out where it shouldn't, because we have no outlet for it.
Exactly. Because we don't have there's no other outlet in human existence in this part of the world at this time for that thing. That's what I worry is, like, gonna fuck us over.
I do think it kind of, like, decreases just overall, like, I feel like people aren't really as, like, they don't think as independently anymore, because if you're on your phone all the time, you're literally just consuming other people's thoughts all day, you know? And it's like, you're not really
need that
coming
time
up
to meditate on it.
You're not really coming up with your own thoughts.
Well, one thing that I can be accused of a lot of times is taking a long time to respond to, like, serious questions. And it's because I don't want to sit there and just fire off something that's not my thought.
We have the opposite problem in life. Look, no.
Well, I mean, you know, if I'm, especially if it's something that, like, is going to be a, you know, it's either an argument or, you know
absolutely.
What I mean? I'll sit there and I'll give it a beat, because I'm like, I got to make sure that what's about to come out of my mouth is my thought.
Yeah.
And it sucks that, like, that's the way things are, but there's so many random things that I could regurgitate that I've heard in the past 2 weeks that aren't my thoughts, but I know all the words to them.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, like, people being on their phone so much, they lose that, like, how often are people actually just alone with their thoughts?
Very rarely.
Yeah.
There's something.
And I feel like, I mean, me personally as an artist, I've found, like, really unplugging and, you know, blocking out everything, like, it's essential to have that time. Certainly. Because in today's era, like, you're just constantly consuming information made by other people, you know?
And that whole experience, though, is this is not new. Obviously, this is taking a form that it has not taken in the past. But I mean, I even think of whether it's the written word, whether it's the printing press, whether it's you know, even just the idea of the novel. Right? Yeah. Like, that the novel is not, it's a very new invention, right? And I'm sure that the issues that a lot of people have with the way that we take in certain story, right, is different than or is quite similar to, I should say, the way that people perceived, okay, well, now that we have this new form of storytelling, how is that going to interfere with the way that we process story? You know, but I think at the end of the day, it's all, it just comes down to how good your story is. Does that make sense?
Like, if something's worth being listened to or being read, it will find its way.
Like, I remember, this is a stupid example, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, I think the story is important, not the medium. The medium can be beautiful, and the medium can be you can attempt to master the medium, which I think is one of the great joys of life, is attempting to master the medium. Not that anyone ever does that, but I think you can attempt to master the medium, and it can give you great pleasure and joy and real fulfillment in life. But I think of the stories that mean the most to me in my life, right? Like, The Lord of the Rings is something that's been just a part of, like, I cannot parse out me as a human being without that story. And the first experience I had with that story was my dad told me and my brothers that story as like a bedtime story when I was like probably 5 years old, right? And he would, he read the books many times in his life, and so I'm the oldest of four, and it would be me and my two younger brothers. So my littlest brother, he was like, 2 or whatever. Yeah. And he would lie in bed at night, and he would tell us the story, and then he'd go to sleep and he'd read a chapter or two, and then he would tell us the following night what he'd read the night before, right? So my first experience with that story wasn't even the text on the page of Tolkien's writing.
It was oral tradition.
It was oral tradition. Yeah. And to me, it's like, and then of course, obviously, a short time after that, I read the books myself, and then I saw the Ralph Bakshi movie, and I saw the Peter Jackson movie, and so that story takes all of these many beautiful forms, but the story is the thing that has moved me, and it's obviously Tolkien's imagination, it's his writing, it's his world, but he created something that transcends the medium. Right now, obviously, I love the novel, and to me, like, that is the precious thing, fully intended pun there. But like that is the precious thing is the novel, is the written word. I'll go back to those books for the rest of my life. But I just think it's funny that my first experience with it wasn't even that. It was my dad telling me that story in a way that's an experience that all human beings throughout all of time have experienced.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a way, too, that was even cooler that your understanding of the story was one thing, and then you got to experience later this, like, uncovering of the full story, and you got to get it all in front of your eyes for the first time. And the thing I love about novels is, a lot of people go, they don't say these words, but their argument is, it's a long form type of content. Like, it's going to take you a long time to get through that. But a novel is really long or short based on your ability to read. So if you want it to take less time, read more and be a better reader. And that's something that I learned early. And I spent a lot of time trying to like learn how to speed read. So, cause I was impatient. I wanted to get to the, and I'm not skipping anything. Like I just read fast.
Yeah.
And I did that to get that gratification payoff because I wanted to know what was going to happen on the next page sooner.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things like you sort of Mr. Miyagi yourself into becoming more talented at something by the desire to find out what's on the next page.
Though. But yeah, and I think that's just, I find that whatever that thing is in storytelling that moves me, I love seeing that in a great many forms.
Yeah.
Right. Whether, Brian knows one of my favorite things in the world is film. I love film. I love the presentation of what film can do.
Yeah.
Right. I love for a myriad of reasons. I love that film can tell a story in a particular way that a novel can't. I love a novel because a novel tells a story in a particular way that a film can't. Right. And so, but at the end of the day, if it's a good story, it's a good story. And that's what I love in songwriting is when, and that's partly why it was a roundabout way of getting here, but that's part of the reason why I wanted to ask you earlier about writing character. I think that that's such an important part of art is the storytelling component. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a place for confessional songwriting or whatever you want to call it, like why this person break my heart or whatever. That's great. There's that stuff in the world is needed.
Yeah, it exists in its own way.
Yeah, but I do think that what compels me most tends to be storytelling of one form or another, whatever shape it
the fun thing about storytelling songs is it's like a mini movie or a book that you've only got 3 or 4 minutes to get to the, you know what I mean? Like it takes, there's a craft to writing any song, but if you want to make somebody feel something in a story song, you've only got like 3 or 4 minutes.
Now we're talking about language. All right, let's go, Luke. So I want to know, like, of the people who do that, of the people of that specific segment of songwriting, who do you think are the people that blow you away by what they can accomplish in? Because at the end of the day, if you got a 10-minute song, that's a long ass song. Yeah. That's nothing compared to a novel, compared to a film, compared to. I mean,
10 minutes is hardly enough to really. I mean, that's like watching like the 2 alternate trailers of a movie. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like I think honestly. I got to give a nod to John Prine. John Prine can put himself in anybody's shoes, and listening to him is what makes me like. One of my favorite things to do is to write with female co-writers, because it's always like in those rooms, I'm never like trying to dominate the storytelling because I want to hear what they want to talk about, and then I want to put myself in those shoes and like feel the same feelings and write the same things. And it's just like you almost get to be a chameleon and like transform to your surroundings. And, the storytelling aspect of, or the aspect of good storytelling is believing what you're saying and like putting yourself there. So like one thing that I'll say, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think like in a horror movie, it's never going to be scarier than the horror book, because it's your imagination that's creating the big evil. And it's like the second you see Jaws. The second you saw Jaws, it wasn't as scary anymore. But
the scariest part is always the build up before
it's the unknown. And it's the same reason that we chase the unknown for good, but we also chase it for bad, and like trying to feel that like there's so many people like scary movies because like we don't get to feel that in real life.
Yeah.
Like if you have good fortune of only feeling the feelings of scary movies by watching them. If your life's not scary,
life's pretty good. Yeah.
Like that's a first world thing, dude. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't feel those things, and it's the same way that we like watch, Twitch streamers and everything else. Like, you're trying to feel something that you're not currently feeling at the moment. And I'm never going to be chased by a vampire. I really hope. Yeah. But like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's fun to pretend for a while.
That's what I'm saying.
If he keeps spending time at Kendall's work, he just might.
That's what I was trying to explain to her the other day.
But they're her coworkers, so they can't be. They got to keep a good rapport.
That's true. You don't want HR, the vampire HR coming around.
That's what I'm saying, dude. But with good storytelling, the pinnacle of good storytelling is writing something that you would want to listen to. Like writing a story that if you were not involved in it, you'd still be like, damn, I'm glad I got to hear that.
That's what I think all art really has to be at the end of the day, is the audience has to be irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that is no disrespect to the audience. If anything, I see that as the inverse. I see that as all respect to the audience. You are irrelevant, because what I'm trying to create is something that I am compelled by. And I say that because if I am compelled by that, then I would imagine that someone else will be compelled by it.
You are the audience also. The only time you're not the audience is when you're creating. But every other facet of your life, you're the audience. So you have just as valid of an opinion on what the audience wants.
Yeah.
If you can just take yourself out of it just for a beat.
Yeah.
Because
sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, there's no high horse to be on as a creator, because we're just momentarily not the audience, and then we go right back to being everybody else.
And also, there is this feeling that I'm sure is prevalent through all of human existence. But when I look at it now, it's interesting that, at least with music, right? There's this feeling that certain people can be taken hold of, which is I need everyone to relate to this, right? I need everyone to be able to have a connection to this thing, and that's just almost by definition that's not possible in human existence. Like that, this doesn't work, and that's why I find that universal ideas like that they exist, right? But they aren't the thing that emotionally binds people to anything, right? Again, this transcends music, right? Like, universality has to lie in those idiosyncratic things that I can put into the world, that someone else can say, oh, I relate to that. I do something, or I do that, or I do something that I can relate to that thing, right? And so that's where I feel like a lot of people lose me, just as a consumer, is when I can get that feeling that, okay, this person is just trying to cast the widest net possible, where it's like, I don't need that, for myself.
I mean, archetypes are archetypes for a reason.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to relate to the hero's journey or to the lover's quarrel, or they exist over the course of time because they're prevalent.
Not to cut you off, but to me, it's like, you're not writing a story that is called the hero's journey, and then you know what I mean? Like, you're writing a story about whoever this particular person is, who is in a very particular situation, that when you graph the hero story on top of it, oh, okay, that's what that is, right? But we're not compelled to it because we're compelled to it because it's, John whatever, who is in this very particular situation that we can relate to as a person. Like that's the sort of sleight of hand, I feel like, that happens in art that can pass by people without them really understanding, right? Like, it's so important to understand why that works, but at the same time, why that works isn't why it's working. It's working because you are compelled by that story.
And if you do it well, you want to hide the fact that it's an archetype until someone with a literary degree points it out in the classroom. Like, you want to disguise it in plain sight enough to where people are like, no, dude, that's just my favorite story. And it's a lot of people's favorite story. There's no correlation.
But it's also, and then, so I have this theory that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, that really at the end of the day, stories are great, but it really is all character. The only reason we're compelled by anything, any form of story, etc., is character, right? Like, I think of, whether it's certain archetypes like the hero's journey, or like Kurt Vonnegut used to have that great bit where he would draw on a chalkboard the shape of every story that's ever existed, right? Yep. And all that stuff is fantastic. And it's true. Again, like, you can post the thing, overlap those ideas, or you can lay those on afterwards, and that's sure. But really, the only reason we're compelled by any of that is because of characters, right?
Totally.
And
if you're not invested, you don't care if they succeed or fail.
Exactly, and that's why I think certain people can play with the form. And like last night, we just watched Mulholland Drive, which is like I think one of the greatest movies of all time. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that movie. Still can't tell you definitively what that movie is about, right?
They're the best kind.
I don't really have to, though, because I'm compelled by the characters. I'm compelled by what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And so it is, I think as an artist, I imagine that one of the most difficult and humbling experiences of all of it is trying to create characters that are real. Like there's nothing worse, I think, than a character in any form that is solely there to prove a point.
Yeah, you got to watch that. That's what I was saying about believability. Like if you don't believe in what you're doing and wouldn't, partake in it as an observer,
yeah,
I think you probably shouldn't finish the idea. Like if you're not totally set on like, I believe this character, I think it's cool, like I feel what they're feeling. If you can't say that, try again.
Yeah. Where's the music side of things kind of creep in here in terms of your background with music? Because all of the storytelling lyrical components are great, and that's obviously a whole world that just never ends.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you need a tune you can hum along to. Like how does all of that work into the equation?
For me personally,
yeah.
I mean, I grew up, like I said, my dad is a great singer. He did some Elvis impersonating stuff. My grandpa did some Elvis impersonating. And so I just grew up with music in the house. And it was always like I was trying to sing before I could sing. And, eventually you start to hit some of the correct notes at the correct time. And, it's a slow process. And I ended up just being fascinated by the very guitar that I brought here today. My grandpa's, it used to always be sitting in his little, I don't know, like sunroom or whatever. And it would be on the wall, just out of the case, leaned up against the wall like it was like a tool, And I'd go over there and I used to watch this as a small kid. Did you ever see like the Xena Warrior Princess show? Okay, I was obsessed with Xena, dude. Lucy Lawless, forever first crush. And the theme song is like dun 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 dun. And I couldn't play the guitar, but I could hear notes, right? And so I was sitting there on the bass string and I was just dun 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 dun. So like I was trying to do that when I was like 6 and 7, and it just got to where I was interested in it. But like my dad kept all of his guitars at my grandpa's house, so I didn't get to see him a lot, and I didn't get to practice or do anything. And finally I was like, maybe I was about to start high school, and I finally just asked somebody, I was like, hey, I'd really like to try to get a guitar or something. And so they got me one, and I got into trying to learn some stuff. And shout out to Marty Music, because
the man
watched I don't know how many, like every video he put up from like 2008 to 11. And got into that, and tried to learn stuff. And I was really into like trying to do John Mayer fingerstyle stuff before I could do it. Mm-hmm. And so I was trying that before it was recent that I started using a pick, like last 4 years recent.
Oh, wow.
Which turns out it's a lot better for trying to do.
Depends on what you're doing.
I mean, it's more universal, like, cause like if you're doing a co-write with people, you want everybody to be able to replicate the song.
Yeah, that's
true. And if I'm doing like some like pompous fingerstyle thing that not everyone in the room can do, they're like, well, that's cool, but I can't go show it to anybody. Yeah. So I try to make, like, I'll have like there might be 2 versions of the song, like a more involved thing, but then I'll keep the, down, down, up, down, up version of it for, accessibility to everyone that was a part of it.
When you're writing, cause you're writing in a particular lane, so to speak, right? Like you tend to be writing in that, like, how would you describe the genre that you work in?
Pitchable.
Yeah. Then that's a good way of putting it. Like, so when you're doing that, right, are you imagining arrangement at all when you're going through that process, or is that not even entering into the equation?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay.
Because I need to know that it could sound similar to something that's getting played on the radio, because, like, let's face it, if you're not getting some airplay on the radio, you're not making a whole lot of money. Or if you're, and something that can get airplay on the radio is also something that could go to sync, and that's really where, if it's not sync or the radio or you're not the main artist touring, performing it, there's not a lot of money to be made in the song just from streaming, which is a whole nother conversation for another day. But I always try to think like, could I hear this on a TV show? Because if in my head, if I can hear it on a TV show or a movie, I could hear it on the radio. So it answers multiple questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm always thinking about like what it would sound like if it was like backed by like orchestra stuff, or what it would sound like if it was backed by like a 3-piece blues thing, like depending on the genre. Because I love country and I love, everything about Nashville, but like I will write anything. I'll get in a room with anybody and I will try my best to write any genre. And I believe that a song is just words on a page till you decide what it is, So I'm always thinking of like all the possibilities of what something could be. And I find that if you're thinking ahead in the regards of like where you could see it being listened to, you tend to write a little tighter over time to like try to find, like, make sure like your lines they have like syllabic symmetry and, the same amount of breath it takes to get through each one, cause like things like that matter to some people.
And it's so fascinating too, because those are things that, that if you're exposed to enough music, those concepts are in one's mind, even if they don't realize that they are.
Well, if something's clunky, you just don't know why. Maybe
exactly. It's this almost like sixth sense that people can have, where even if you've never taken any time to really study that particular thing, because music is just so core to us, because we're just exposed to it so regularly in life, that when those things are off, it's like we just can't put our finger like, why does that not work? Why does that not work?
Well, I think in terms of like sports analogies a lot, and I think about it as like being like musically athletic. Like, how like if you played on any sort of organized team at any point, there was the regular players and then like that guy.
Yeah.
So there's always someone that's just like, he didn't have to work as hard. He was just good. I think knowing if a line is clunky off, rip, is like being musically athletic. Like it's something that you can work on and you can get better at, but people that just have a natural inclination towards it, like if you're just sort of a wordsmith and you don't even know why, you're musically athletic and you've got this ability to like figure out things earlier. Because if you figure out things earlier in a writing room, people assume you're a better writer, but you might be having the same thoughts as everyone else. You just thought quicker.
That's why I think when you say that, my mind goes to like the Traveling Wilburys, right?
Yep.
And I think of that group of guys and just the level of ability in that room when they're just throwing ideas around is insane, right? And then you would hear any of them talk, and they would talk about how like Dylan would throw a line out, and they'd all be like, "Fucking Christ, why didn't I fucking think it?" And I think it is just that. It's a skill set you can obviously work on, but part of it is just that athleticism. It's that natural ability to like, oh, that's what the instinct is. Do that.
Following your instincts quickly is musical athleticism.
And that to me is just crazy. When people can be that naturally gifted, so to speak, but then also put the work in to be the best iteration they can be.
Yeah, that's when you're Michael Jordan, dude. Like
that's when things get insane.
Yeah.
God, what do you got coming up next? What's like kind of on the horizon right now?
Right now, I've just really, things always slow down around Christmas time. And I like to try to vamp it up as things are getting back. And I'm just trying to swamp myself with co-writes right now because I don't have an avenue of anybody courting me from a music publishing aspect or anything like that, or, labels or anything like that. Until I find doors like that to open, I'm just going to build a catalog that's very deserving of opening a door.
I love it.
And I feel like putting in that work quietly and not trying to do anything is going to pay off more than anything else. So I'm just trying to swamp myself with co-writes.
I feel like that's the absolute move. I feel like that's the move, whether you're a songwriter, whether you're a performer, whatever you're doing.
Hungry.
Just keep going at it. Dude, this was so much fun. I'm so glad you came into
this.
Man.
This is awesome.
This is
Thanks,
the ball.
Man.
Thank you, dude. That was killer. And Kendall got to tag along too.
Absolutely.